Hello, welcome to Empowerment in Illness. I'm Gwen, and today we're talking about something every warrior can relate to: the stages of living with a chronic illness. Living with a chronic condition isn't a straight path. It doesn't begin, get fixed, and end. Instead, it's a journey that twists, shifts, and changes shapes as life goes on. Some days, you're searching desperately for answers. Other days, you're grieving a diagnosis, adjusting to new limitations, or discovering strength you didn't know you had. Many of us share this rhythm, even if our illnesses are different. Over time, 5 stages often appear: onset, diagnosis, adjustment, acceptance, and integration. They're not a checklist you complete, and they don't move in perfect order. By naming them gives us clarity. It helps us understand not only what we're experiencing, but also how we can meet ourselves with compassion at every step. In this episode, we'll walk through each stage, what it feels like, what challenges it brings, and what tools can help you keep moving. I'll also share reflection questions so you can pause and consider where you are right now in your own journey. Because wherever you are, you're not behind, you're not failing, you are living, learning, and finding your way forward. So let's get into it. The onset, searching stage. This stage often starts quietly, like a shadow stretching across the life you thought you knew. You're living your life, working, laughing with friends, maybe in a relationship, maybe chasing goals. Things feel steady, even good, and then something shifts. At first, it's subtle, a little more tired than usual. A workout that leaves you drained for days instead of hours. A headache that lingers. A stomach that rebels without warning. You notice, but you brush it off. This is the bridge. The moment between I'm fine and what's happening to me. You question yourself before you question your body. Maybe I just need to eat better. Maybe I need to get back to the gym. Maybe I'm stressed. You rationalize because the changes don't come with warning labels. They sneak in quiet but relentless. Then fatigue shows up, the kind that sleep doesn't solve. You can nap for 3 hours and still wake up exhausted. You feel like you've been running, even when all you did was go to work and come home. And the confusion grows because you didn't do anything to earn this exhaustion. It doesn't match your activity. It doesn't match the life you know. That's when caution creeps in. You start to measure your stamina, to second guess your activities. Should I skip the gym? Should I cancel dinner with friends? Should I take another nap? You want to keep living your life, but your body is whispering that something isn't right, and the whispers are getting louder. The hardest part is that your doctor might not have an answer yet. You explain your exhaustion, your pain, the changes you can't ignore. They run tests. They tell you things look normal. You leave the office both relieved and disappointed. How can everything be normal when your life no longer feels normal? This stage is heavy with emotions, confusion, caution, self-doubt, and fear. You want your old life back, but you don't know how to reach it anymore. You're standing on a bridge between who you were and who you are becoming, with no clear map to guide you. When did you first notice those subtle changes? The ones you tried to explain away. Looking back, how did you know it was more than just being out of shape or a little stressed? Everyone's onset stage looks different. If this sounds like you, please know you are not imagining your symptoms. You are not alone. The diagnosis stage. The diagnosis stage is the moment your life pivots in a way you never expected. One day you're moving forward as you always have. The next, a word arrives that rearranges everything. It can feel like the rug was pulled out from under you, and you're left standing on a floor that's gone strange. This stage is crowded with conflicting feelings. There's a relief in hearing a name, because suddenly the thing that's been breaking you down has a label. That relief sits next to a deep grief. A grief for the life you thought you would keep, for the plans that now feel uncertain, for the version of yourself who had different energy and different expectations. There's anger too, at the randomness, at the body, at the slow wheels of medicine that took so long to catch up. There's also a hollow, quiet despair that can visit without warning. You might find yourself confronting your own mortality in ways you never have before. Thoughts about death, about your family, about faith and meaning can come up in a rush. Questions that feel too big for the moment. Why me? Why now? You listen and search for explanations, for something that makes sense, and most of the time, there's none. The space between question and answer can feel endless. Being handed a pamphlet, a list of websites, or a note to read up can feel like being tossed into a storm with a flashlight and no map. The medical language is cold and clinical. The emotional language is messy and human. You search forums, social feeds, and groups hoping to find the face of someone who has built a life again, someone enjoying a future you can imagine. Often what you find are stats, scary stories, or clinical papers that don't hold your human questions. That kind of isolation presses on you. Even when people offer help, the connection can feel thin. Well-meaning friends may respond with advice that misses the mark. The family members might alternate between overprotective worry and uncomfortable silence. You can be surrounded and still feel utterly alone because the interior experience of diagnosis is something only you live through. This stage is not tidy. It's not a tidy box you check and move on from. It's a heavy, sprawling room of emotions where relief, rage, sorrow, fear, and bewilderment sits together and don't always get along. You're allowed to feel all of it without apologizing. You're allowed to sit in the questions without immediate answers. Naming those feelings is not defeat. It's honesty. When your diagnosis arrived, what was the first feeling that hit you? What question kept repeating in your head for days afterwards? If this stage brings up thoughts of harming yourself, or you feel overwhelmed and unsafe, please get help now. In the U.S., call or text 988. If you are elsewhere, contact your local emergency services or crisis hotline. You do not have to carry that alone. The adjustment stage. This is the stage where you get tired, not the ordinary tired of a long week, but the bone-deep exhaustion of having to carry an invisible problem day after day. You're tired of apologizing for being sick. You're tired of explaining yourself. You're tired of pretending everything is fine because it's easier than the conversation that follows. That tired turns into something else, a fierce refusal to keep feeling sorry for yourself and a determination to build a bridge to whatever comes next. The adjustment stage is a bridge you build with your own hands. It's the point where questions move from why me to what now. You want answers, or at least you want the search for answers to feel purposeful. You start paying attention to patterns, keeping notes, noticing what makes a day better or worse. You're scanning for doctors who listen, for phrases that make sense, for a name that helps you find other people who've walked similar paths. This is when the hunt for a village begins. You learn quickly who sits with you in the hard stuff and who disappears. Real friends, the ones who bring soup and stay on the couch while you cry. The family members who show up without judgment, becomes precious and rare. Some people will surprise you with their loyalty. Others will reveal their limits. You will lose social invitations, casual friendships, maybe even relationships that were once easy. That loss hurts like a fresh bruise because it's not just missing the party, it's losing the shared life you once had. At the same time, there's relief in discovering the people who do stay. These are the ones who call to ask how you slept, who text a joke at 2 a.m., who don't insist you explain your pain, but simply ask how can they be with you. The adjustment stage pares life down to essentials. It forces clarity. It shows you where the real support are and strips away the surface level stuff that used to take up space. Emotionally, this stage is messy. There's grief for the relationship that fade. There's anger that you have to explain yourself at all. There's also cautious hope as you meet people who understand or are trying to understand. You may feel more confident advocating for yourself in medical rooms or in meetings at work, not because you suddenly have all the answers, but because you've become practiced at naming what you need in the moment. There's also an ache of identity. You're learning to live in a body that may not do what it used to, and that asks for new definitions of yourself. Who are you when stamina is limited? How do you still belong to your work, your friendship, your hobbies? Those questions sit heavy and demand new answers that don't always come quickly. And importantly, loss is part of this stage in more ways than one. You may lose people who can't understand or who expect to owe you back too soon. You may lose roles, the gym buddy, the late night project partner, the event organizer. These vanishings are real losses and they deserve mourning. They also create room, painful, yes, but also space for different kind of connections, quieter, deeper, steadier. This stage stretches you. It makes you ask hard questions about who you are and who you want around you. It's exhausting and it can be lonely, but it's also where you begin to see the scaffolding of a life that will hold you through flare days and good days alike. You begin to learn slowly and painfully which pieces to carry forward and which to let go. Who stayed when you needed them most and who didn't? What did that teach you about the people in your life? When did you first start to move from why me to what now? What thought or event started that shift? What small thing did someone do that made you feel truly seen during this stage? The adjustment stage is not a betrayal of hope. Feeling angry, grieving losses, and being exhausted do not mean you won't find joy again. They are part of this real terrain of this middle stretch of the journey. The acceptance and management stage. The bridge has been built. You've crossed through the chaos of onset, the weight of diagnosis, and the messy middle of adjustment. Now you step into the acceptance and management stage. This doesn't mean you're happy about being sick. It doesn't mean you never get frustrated or grieve. What it does mean is that you've begun to breathe differently. You know you can't go back, so you learn how to live forward. This stage is about partnership with your body, with your doctors, and with your own voice. You start working with your medical team instead of waiting passively for them to decide your future. You bring questions, track patterns, request accommodations, and advocate for what you need. The you who once doubted yourself is now saying, I deserve answers. I deserve care. I deserve to be a part of this conversation. It's also about hope. Hope doesn't always look like a cure. Sometimes it's smaller, steadier, a treatment that eases symptoms, a medication that buys you energy, a routine that makes flares less intense. Hope can be community too, finding others who get it, laughing about things only fellow warriors understand, knowing you don't have to explain every detail. There's loss in this stage still. You may never stop missing a version of yourself who had different abilities, but acceptance makes room for new strength. You discover resilience you didn't know you had. You realize you can still contribute, still create, still love, even if the way you do it looks different than before. This stage is also about solutions, not in the sense of fixing everything, but in finding what helps you live better now. That could be adjusting your schedule, using new tools, or simply giving yourself permission to rest without guilt. It's about weaving illness into your identity, not as the whole story, but as one important thread in a bigger, fuller tapestry. And here's the beautiful part. This is often where real joy starts to come back. You begin to laugh more. You create memories even in the middle of limitations. You stop waiting for life to get back to normal and instead start building a new normal, one that still has love, purpose, and meaning. What's one thing you've learned to accept about your illness, and how has that shifted your daily life? Where have you found unexpected hope? Who or what has helped you realize that living with illness doesn't mean stopping your life? Acceptance is not the same as giving up. It's the opposite. It's choosing to live fully in the reality you're in and to find joy, peace, and strength in the midst of it. The integration stage. This is the stage where everything comes full circle. You've crossed the bridge, found your footing, and learned how to live alongside your illness. And now, something new arises, the desire to reach back and help the next warrior who's just starting their journey. The integration stage isn't about pretending illness is easy. It's about acknowledging that while you live with limitations, you've also gathered tools, stories, and resilience that can be shared. You remember the fear and confusion of onset. You remember the grief of diagnosis. You remember the isolation of adjustments. And because you remember, you want to make sure no one else feels as alone as you did. This stage also looks like advocacy. For some, that means speaking out, educating employers, pushing for policy change, or joining organizations that fight for patients' rights. For others, it's quieter, but no less powerful, sending a message to a newly diagnosed friend, joining a support group just to say, I've been there, you'll get through this. Integration is also about weaving illness into your identity without letting it consume the whole story. You're not just a patient. You're a parent, a partner, a creator, a professional, a dreamer. Illness is one thread in your tapestry, but the fabric of your life is bigger than any diagnosis. In this stage, you begin to reclaim joy and purpose on your own terms. And there's a beauty in realizing that you can carry both the weight of illness and the gift of empathy it gives you. The compassion you extend to yourself now flows outward to others. Warriors become mentors. Pain becomes wisdom. Struggle becomes connection. Have you found yourself reaching out to others in their diagnosis stage? What did you share? How has chronic illness shaped the way you see yourself, not as broken, but as whole in a new way? What threads of purpose are you weaving back into your story now that you've integrated your illness into your life? Integration doesn't mean the illness disappears. It means you've learned how to hold it without letting it hold all of you. Marinate on that. As we wrap up the stages, I want to leave you with a few tools and resources that can support you no matter where you are in your journey. These aren't cures or fixes. They're anchors, small things you can reach for as you move through each stage. For the onset stage, keep a simple symptom tracker. Nothing fancy, just a notebook or phone notes where you jot down your energy level, top symptoms, and one thing that helped or hurt each day. Write one sentence each week that names your experience. Something has changed and I deserve care. For the diagnosis stage, journal the questions that keep repeating in your mind. Sometimes naming them gets them out of your head and onto paper. If you're searching online, set a timer. Give yourself a limit so research doesn't spiral into fear. For the adjustment stage, pay attention to who shows up and who fades away. Write down the names of the people who truly support you. Those are your roots. Consider joining a moderate support group or online community where you can hear me too instead of feeling alone. For the acceptance and management stage, bring one clear question or request to each doctor's appointment. Advocate for yourself by making your voice part of the care plan. Practice pacing your energy, small bursts of work followed by planned rest. Think of it as budgeting your energy the way you budget money. For the integration stage, share your story, whether it's with one person, a group, or online. You never know who might be waiting to hear that they're not alone. Look for one way to turn your experience into advocacy. educating a friend, supporting a newly diagnosed warrior, or even posting a resource that helped you. Remember, these are tools, not rules. Take what serves you and leave what doesn't. The most important resource you have is your own lived experience. Your story matters, your voice matters, and your journey is shaping you in ways you may not even see yet. Before we leave, I would like to close with a special portion of the show I call Healing Heartbeats. This is where we allow ourselves to wallow in sorrow. Give yourself 3 minutes to laugh, cry, scream, cuss, or just sit in silence. Whatever you need to do to feel it, do it. Let the depression in for only 3 minutes. Once you've reached 3 minutes, compartmentalize it and get back to living. This is a rinse and repeat behavior. You cannot let depression take over, because when it does, it will not let go. When we hear about the passing of someone, they have the day they were born and the day they pass away. There is a dash in the middle. It's not a long line, but a short dash. That dash represents your life. Go live in spite of having a chronic illness. Don't let your condition stop you. We walk together through the stages of chronic illness today. From the confusion of onset, to the weight of diagnosis, to the messy middle of adjustments. From the fragile hope of acceptance and management, to the deeper strength of integration. Each stage has its own emotions, its own challenges, and its own lessons. If you're still in the searching stage, wondering why your body feels foreign to you, I want you to know you're not imagining this. If you're standing in the diagnosis stage, staring down grief and questions that feel too big to answer, your feelings are valid. If you're in the adjustment stage, losing people you thought you could count on and discovering the real ones who stay, you are building something new and stronger than before. If you're in the acceptance stage, working with your doctors and fighting for hope, you are not giving up. You're building a new way forward. And if you've reached the integration stage, using your voice to advocate and mentor others, thank you for showing us what it looks like to weave illness into a life that still shines with meaning. Remember, these stages are not linear. You may move back and forth. You may live in 2 at once. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. This journey is messy, complicated, and often unfair. But it's also filled with resilience, compassion, and community. Wherever you are in your stage right now, I want you to hold on to this. You're not alone, and you're not defined solely by your illness. You are defined by your courage, your perseverance, and the way you keep showing up for your life. Remember, you have the strength, the heart, and the support to continue your journey. Be safe.